confronted this little demon at the foot of the bed. So I went instantly to say, "No, Chris, I woke up, I drove that thing away." But as I went to say, I said, "But no." Something happened. In my head, I saw a flash, a white light, like the neuralizer in Men in Black. But it was in the right side of my forehead, and like a flash cube went poof, like that. The light went on, and this voice said, "Don't tell her. If you tell her, she won't be able to handle it. She'll lose her mind." And I zipped up. I couldn't believe it. I zipped up. I just shut my mouth, and I didn't tell her. But over the period of the next few months, a very strange thing happened. She started to change. She got very involved with really occult and dark art. She was an artist, and she started painting drawings and depicting herself and me in very beautiful paintings. But she painted herself as a nymph and me as Pan. And then, I mean, that was fine. That was a very beautiful, lovely etching. It was actually an etching. Then one day I walked in and she was sculpting, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she turned this thing that she was sculpting, and it was kind of like a gargoyle with a really interesting, weird look on its face, like open mouth, tongue sticking out, hooked nose, slanted eyes, big brow. And I said, "What the heck is," I didn't say heck, but "What the heck is that?" And she said, "Ha, ha, ha, that's you, that's you." And I said, "Get out of here." I rejected it. But now that I recall what it was a kind of a composite of me and that creature, as if they overlapped. And 30 years later, I was with Dr. Bruce Cornett and related this to him, and he said, "Oh, Robert, that's so easy to understand." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, when you woke up and it tried to tell you that he was your girlfriend's evil shadow, of course your mind was strong enough, and you didn't believe him, and you sent him on his way. But when she woke up and he told her, 'I'm your boyfriend's evil shadow,' she had no recourse but to believe it, and she believed it. Yeah. And that's why she had this composite image of the creature as both you and it. But that thing, the aura of this, the psychic element of these encounters remains with you, even though you don't know it, because you know what? After that event happened, it all went back. It went to sleep, and I didn't remember it till 2002. And the recollection of it was triggered by Bud Hopkins' special on the History Channel about the abduction of Linda Corteil out of the 12th floor of a building here in New York. I was very excited about the show, and adrenaline would run through my body whenever he said, "Oh, this incident happened right here in New York. You won't believe it. This incident happened here in New York in 1978. And I got really charged up because I said, "Well, I was in New York in 1978. I've been in New York all my life, but I was here in 78 too." So I taped the show. It was a marvelous show. I showed it to friends. And after watching the show like 5-6 times with friends and discussing it, habituation, you get used to it, so you don't get excited. But I noticed that even after 5 or 6 times of seeing the show, the adrenaline would run through my body whenever he said 1978. And I go, what is it about that? So a couple of weeks later, we had a reunion. My cousin, Mark, and my brother, Rudy, came to New York at the same time, and the three of us had not been together, all together as three, relatives, in about 15 to 17 years. And both my brother and my cousin had childhood abduction experiences with the Krays, and they had each told me their stories. So I sat down with them and I said, Mark, Rudy, I want to sit here just as a witness because I know you've told me your stories, but I want you to tell them to each other. And I want to watch and I want to hear. And then it went, right? And then we had this marvelous 3-hour session. Then my brother left and my cousin left, and I was going to bed. And I said, it's really strange, and I'm so comfortable with UFOs, and I know so much about aliens, and they don't frighten me. And I'm telling you, scores and scores of people have found me over the last 40 years, usually as a Tai Chi teacher, as an instructor, as a counselor for stress. And scores have told me, after they've gotten to know me a couple of months or a year, I had a UFO experience when I was a kid. I was abducted. I saw aliens. They took scoops out of my legs and so on. And I said to myself, it's really strange that I know so much and I'm so comfortable in this field and I help so many people and I haven't had an ET encounter. And I went to bed, and all of a sudden, boom, it came up on me. It's like, holy mackerel, that was it. So you see, what happened was I created a critical mass of psychic energy by convening my brother, my cousin, and myself, and the souls, the three souls mixed, and we created a psychic charge, which when they left, I was left with it, and it overcame the mind control, the amnesia that so many people like. Katharina Wilson, do you know her?
Yes. Yes, I
she's a wonderful lady, and she is so on the mark. I remembered her book is called "I Remembered What I Was Supposed to Forget," and that says it all.
Yes. Yeah, and I think I read a bit of her book. But this gets back to the reptilians, though, and also to the Anunnaki, and it sounds like you actually are quite well versed in this area as well.
Yes. The thing about this creature, yes, it's reptilian. The one that I saw, to be honest with you, I think it was what we call chupacabra. And I believe that this creature is kind of like the hunting dog. What a hunting dog is to us, this thing is to the Greys.
Well, have you seen the movies by Jaime Maussan? Because he shows little guys like that.
Yes, I have. There is a similarity. There is a similarity in some of the
very close
videos
to the way you described.
Yeah, but there's also this other entity, the taller gray, and the taller gray is really a foul. It's a foul-smelling creature. That's all I'll tell you. Is that, and part of the fear that humans have, when they encounter this thing, is that the smell, when we are used to, the olfactory sense is really the first sense that we have as humans in the crib, before our eyes focus, before we really start paying attention to what we're hearing. It's the sense of smell that guides us in our infancy. And we have a natural reaction of flight or fright, or flight and fright, to really repugnant smells. And the gray, the tall gray, can almost bank on it, that being in its presence will mortify a human being and actually create a panic state unless you're able to pull yourself together and overcome this.
Okay, now we have almost 15 minutes to go here and till the end of the show, and I just want to make sure that we announce that we will take questions from the listeners. The way this works on this radio show, Robert, is that they are able to type into the chat, and the engineer Hans will probably let us know what the questions are. Fine. And by putting them into our chat, or I can read them off the chat here. But just in case anyone's been listening, because this is all very, very fascinating, and it's wonderful that you're sharing these stories with us. But there may be some people out there that have some direct questions they want to ask you.
I'd be happy to hear them.
Okay, and I see there's a comment here, it's from someone named James, saying the truth is that we are not supposed to be fighting each other, and what is the point of that? And so that doesn't seem like a question to me. So I'm not sure how that hits you.
Well, I can sense that what he's saying basically is that we have been ruled by a divide and conquer strategy, and that we have to stop fighting each other and ranting and raving against each other, and to see that what we really should be fighting is the manipulation of our minds and our emotions for somebody else's agenda. And that's what I would.
Well, it all gets back to sovereignty.